You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots.
Today's guests from the Hotel Committee, Steve Koffler, Chairman, Craig Stevens, Vice Chairman, and Stephen Roberts, Vice Chairman. Here's your host, Ryan Argenta.
Hotel guys are in the house. Steve Koffler, Hotel Committee Chairman, Stephen Roberts, and Craig Stevens, Vice Chairman, Hotel Committee. If you don't have a Stephen or a PH in your name, apparently you can't be part of the Hotel Committee. We've got Steve, Stephen, and Craig Stevens here with us. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Ryan, happy to be here.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
It feels like we all know what the Hotel Committee does for us because we live it on every layover. But what does the Hotel Committee do for pilots? Steve, take it away.
Yeah. So, although Section 5 of our contract addresses lodging, it's not very specific. And really, it only specifies adequate and comfortable. So what we really do is attempt to get our pilots into the best properties that we can. So in addition to safe, comfortable hotels, we're looking for superior rooms, fitness centers, superior locations, superior amenities. And, of course, we recognize it's not always possible to get the best of everything in one hotel, but we certainly do try.
And your committee's quite large, if I understand. How many people do you have?
There are 16 of us on the committee, some who've been on over 20 years. Craig Stevens, one of our vice chairs, who has been on for over 30 years.
That's correct. Ever since I got off probation.
That's impressive, man. Yeah. And you look great for 30 years on a hotel committee. So you're doing it right. So walk me through, connect some dots. How are hotels conceived from the company soliciting bids all the way to I'm in my layover hotel now? How does that work?
Well, initially, the company will come to us. They'll either be sourcing a new market or there will be an auto renewal process. And if we don't agree to auto renew a property for whatever reason, possibly because we've received so many FCRs about that, negative FCRs about that property, we'll indicate to the company that we would like a full sourcing of that city. So once the sourcing begins in that city, a corporate travel services will send out requests for proposals for hotels that are interested in our business in that city. Not every hotel is interested in airline business. I have heard complaints in the past of why did we just drive past this one hotel that looked great only to go to another hotel that's 10 minutes down the road. And we certainly tried to get the best hotels interested in our business, but not every hotel wants airline crew there or a large block of airline crew in some cases.
Most hotels that are interested in crew business typically don't take more than 10% of their inventory for crew. And that makes things sometimes difficult for us in some large cities that we have high volume. So take, for example, London. We have a lot of rooms a night in London, and you can't just walk into any hotel and say, well, you take 80 room block.
You know what I love about London? Sorry to interrupt your train here, but you know what I love about London? You can sit on the toilet while you're brushing your teeth in the sink, making a cup of coffee in the living room.
That's right.
You can even fluff your pillows because you can reach all of those points at arm's length because the rooms are so small.
I love what an optimist you are, Ryan. That's so cool. And and I also like being able to crawl across my bed to open my closet and not being able to open.
Yeah, you can open the front door from your bed.
Yes, that is a sore subject.
Okay. Sorry. Back to proposals.
So once they get these proposals back, they will compile them and set up a site inspection in that city. And at a minimum, there will be a buyer there from corporate travel service, representative from in-flight, and then an ALPA hotel committee representative. Sometimes in larger or higher profile cities, we will see a management attend, a flight ops management, as well as in-flight management and corporate travel services management. So we'll cite however many hotels that they have selected for us to look at, sometimes as many as 4 or 5 in a day, and sometimes on a visit, as many as 15 properties. And then our hotel inspector, our hotel committee volunteer, will write up a report, either approving or disapproving the properties. We'll submit that report to flight operations and make a final determination on what property they'll be choosing for our pilots.
Okay, so it starts with the company. They go out, they put out a request for proposal for a particular city. And then they come to the hotel committee and they say, hey, we're considering these 5. You go and do inspections in each. And then do you rank order them? Do you say, here's our top choice and here's our number 5 choice?
Absolutely. We rank them in order of preference, and we do try to get the company to give us our top choice, one of 2 choices if we can.
And I'm sure cost has a lot to do with that.
It does. And that's something that we don't get involved in, although sometimes the company will share with us when we ask for a certain property, and they'll be quick to tell us that that's going to cost them $1 million more than any other property.
Okay. So cost for them, amenities for us. Let's have some fun with this. So you walk into a new property in a particular city. What's the first thing you look at? What are the deal breakers and what are the wins?
That's a great question.
Right off the bat, you can tell if the hotel wants you or not, just based on the initial reception. Some hotels will line up their staff and welcome us. Others were waiting in the lobby on the management group to finally come out and greet us. So that's the initial response from the hotel is pretty important. From there, we sit down with the management group, the sales group, engineering, their safety team, and go through all the fire safety, security issues, the amenities, the restaurants, the Wi-Fi. We cover all the bases there. And right in that meeting, you can tell if the hotel really wants our business, if they have experience with crew, that's important. And also, are there other airlines? How do you handle your transportation? Just from that sit down meeting, even before we do a tour of the property, you can get a good feeling of whether we're going to be welcome there, or if it's going to be a good fit. And then from there on the tour, of course, we're checking the quality of the rooms, the bedding, the bathrooms, the fitness center, restaurants. If they have a pool or whatever, we get a good tour of all the amenities. But the initial response from the management team is very important.
So let's talk discounts. How do those come about, right? Food, beverage, alcohol, not alcohol. Where does that start?
Actually, the discounts are really the last thing that happens. It's like, hey, if you offer a discount, our crew will stay in the hotel and maybe eat and drink rather than going out on the local economy. And usually the hotels will throw out 20% or so. There's some that are better, some that are worse, but it's really not a heavy negotiated item.
If a hotel were to offer a free breakfast, the company would be more interested in how much cheaper could they get that room than could the pilots get a free breakfast. Thus, you will see, especially in European cities, the reduced price breakfast.
Do we have any free breakfasts in the system?
There's no such thing as a free breakfast, Ryan. Certainly we do.
Gotcha. So the rumor that Delta purposely to negotiate discounts or say the beer deals, that's between the hotel and the buyer.
It is. And of course, Southwest was famous for their 3-2-1. They actually paid more for their hotels in order to get that, but they also have a very strange, very unique business model in that the pilot group at Southwest has a budget from their company and they do the whole thing. They do the sourcing, they do the negotiating, and they do the buying.
Actually, that's a cool thing to know. So it's like the parent gives the kid an allowance and says, spend it how you want.
Pretty much.
So a question a lot of people ask, but we all want to know, what about points? What about loyalty? Why can't we keep our points or get our loyalty status in certain properties? Steve?
That's something that we all would love, especially the amount of time that we spend in hotels. That's entirely up to that particular hotel. There is a cost associated with giving out points and status. Delta Airlines isn't interested in paying a higher rate for a room so that we can get that benefit. That would be something great if it were to be negotiated. I recall some polling on that not too long ago, and that's something we'd all be in favor of as well. But it's certainly up to the hotel whether they want to give out those points and stay credits. I've experienced some points in several of the hotels that I stay at. I have not gotten any stay credits. I think, Craig, you might have some stay credit experience, right?
There are a couple of domestic properties that will give us a stake. As you said, the points are a cost item to the hotel, so Delta negotiates a lower rate to not include those points.
So contractually, kind of switching gears, but related. So contractually, we don't spell out a lot of requirements, right? We don't say the room has to be particular square footage, the gym has to have particular equipment, there must be a pool, there doesn't need to be a pool. We don't really get into the nitty-gritty there, right?
Unfortunately not. And that goes back to our contract, which really only specifies adequate and comfortable when it comes to lodging.
I mean, that's pretty vague. So we're in Section 6, as we all know. Do we need some contractual improvements to hotels? Steve, what are your...
Absolutely. That's something that we're seeking. I don't really want to get into specifics on what we have asked for, but we certainly could use stronger Section 5 contractual language when it comes to lodging.
I want to go to Craig, who's been here for 30 years. You've seen a lot of contract cycles. You've been working on hotels this entire time. If you could write the script, and you don't have to be specific, but if you could write the script, what do you want to see in this next contract?
I would like us to increase the strength of our approval language. You know, if you read the contract now, it is, as you said, fairly nebulous. We look at some of our compatriots at United and other airlines. They have a whole laundry list of items that they require. Sometimes that hamstrings them and they don't get the hotel they want because it's missing this or missing that. So being a little squishy is okay, but I would like to see our approval ability spelled out a little more clearly and a little stronger.
Okay. And I assume you are working with the negotiators about Section 5 and negotiating that.
We have given our input.
So where do you get your feedback from the pilots? Is it FCRs? Is it the Ace for Union app? Where does it come from?
A multitude of places. FCRs are the best way to provide feedback. And the reason is because those are shared with the company as well. I believe we're the only committee that actually gets to see these company FCRs under hotels. And we read them every morning, the three of us, and our committee members do as well. And we address any issues directly with the company that we see. So in my opinion, that's the best way to provide feedback, both positive and negative, because it gives us a way to document those issues with the company.
I do want to ask, is there such a thing as a positive FCR? If I really like this hotel and I want to stay there, should I fill out an FCR saying, keep us at this hotel?
Sure.
Please. Absolutely.
We've tried to put that out for the last year or so in the MEC news that positive FCRs will help us when that city comes up for renewal. If we see many positives, we'll push to just auto renew that city. Just to tag on to what Steve said, if we know we have a problem in the city, we know this hotel is not working, we don't like it, we personally stay there, we know it's not working, and we approach flight ops and corporate travel and try to enact a change in that city, the very first thing that they reference is, where are the FCRs? We don't have the data to support this opinion. And if we don't have the data, then it's very difficult for us to make a change. I know in a lot of other facets of our operation at Delta, you file an FCR and you'd never hear back and you don't even know where it goes and who reads it and what's it going to help. But in the hotel world, it's vital. It's the only way we can make changes.
This is Craig. I'll jump on that a little bit too. I do know a lot of guys get frustrated and they say, hey, I wrote 3 FCRs on this hotel and nothing happened. As long as it's not a major safety issue, generally the preference, especially for the company, is to let the contract play out. And then at the end of the contract, to come back in and make changes. And so if it's a 2-year contract, we'll absolutely go back and look at those FCRs and be able to take those to the company and say, look, we've got a history of FCRs. It trailed off through the length of the contract, but you can see the dissatisfaction of the pilot group with the FCRs. And that's our lever. So we really need them. The same is true for positive ones. You asked about those. If all we hear are negative FCRs, our assumption has to be that the pilot group wants to leave. Charlotte, we recently moved from downtown back out to the suburb, and all of a sudden we got FCRs. Hey, why did we leave downtown? I really liked downtown. Well, we didn't hear from those guys. All we heard was the negative. So there was no counterbalance. So we do our best to follow what we perceive as the will of the pilot group. And so that resulted in a move away from that area. So we definitely need both good and bad.
That's really good to know. And I'll plug that again. I know you're on the Ace for Union apps. There's an inquiry that's more internal with the hotel committee. But if you want to get the attention of both the company and the hotel committee and you want to change, fill out an FCR. And you can also, on an FCR, from personal experience, you can request a response. Is that still true?
Yes, Ryan, but that response is going to come from the company because that is the company's system. So that response they get will be from corporate travel services. If you want a response from a hotel committee representative, then the follow-on to that would be the ACE for Unions app.
Let's talk about what happens. This is pretty rare, but you show up on a layover and you have an issue with a hotel, or the hotel room is not booked, or you show up and it's not available. What's my course of action as a pilot? What do I do?
The first thing you should do is contact crew accommodations or the duty pilot. Of interesting note is the fact that when you talk to somebody in crew accommodations, you're actually not talking to a Delta employee. They are a contracted service, and they actually have members sitting in the OCC, and they provide the IROPS and distress passenger booking for Delta Airlines. So if you're sitting on hold waiting to talk to one of these contractors, especially during an IROP, you may be better served to just source your own hotel and get there, get established, get yourself into rest, let the company know via Crew Assist app or a phone call to the duty pilot, and you will get reimbursed for that hotel. In fact, the contract specifies that if company arranged lodging at a layover station is not available, a pilot may arrange other lodging, and the company will reimburse the pilot for the actual reasonable expenses of such lodging. Reasonable expenses could be a night in South Florida, and all that's available is a room at the Ritz-Carlton for $1,200 a night. And that's the hotel room that's available.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we're so used to lodging and hotels just being booked, being accommodated. I know with COVID, things have been a little upended, but that's a great point. Contractually, you are authorized and obligated really to source your own hotel if one is not provided for. I know there's been some issues of you check into a hotel and they say, well, we do have your reservation, but it's going to be 3-4 hours before a room is ready. Now you're working into a fatigue issue, you're working into a rest issue. So that's probably a duty pilot call. You can also use the Pilot Assist app on your iPad. Is there any provision there? Where would you send a pilot? We had feedback from a crew that slept in the lobby of a hotel because their rooms weren't ready. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is Delta Airlines. You don't sleep in a lobby of a hotel.
100%. Unfortunately, that I think that recent situation, both the airline and the crew members were unable to source a single room available. I think that was a South Florida situation. Completely unsat that they were even sent down there without a hotel room being available. And upon further inspection, it was discovered that the hotel actually dropped the ball on that.
Hey, Ryan, if I could just interject there as well. The majority of the FCRs that we receive on a daily basis have to do with transportation. And I know that's very frustrating, especially during COVID. Transportation companies are having difficulty getting drivers, but this is in the FOM. After 20 minutes on the curb, you can secure your own transportation and be reimbursed. Get your own transportation. We see that almost on a daily basis. I waited 35 minutes. I waited an hour for the van. Don't do that. Get your own transportation. The way I handle it, about 15 minutes into the wait, I open up my rideshare apps, start the process, take that initiative to do it yourself, and then submit an FCR, because Delta needs to know that this transportation company is not fulfilling their agreement.
Steven, that's a great point. And I actually just had this happen not too long ago on a trip, and it's both in the FOM, it's also in the contract, but a lot of people said, no, we're just going to wait. The transportation company said, we'll pick you up, but it's going to be 45 minutes from now. And I immediately started teeing it up an Uber, and the captain said, no, you're never going to get reimbursed. And I said, absolutely. It's through Concur. It's an easy app. You upload the receipt, and I was reimbursed in 3 days. So
yeah,
please don't be afraid to do that.
Absolutely. They've made a huge improvement in that. You used to have to wait for it on your paycheck, and then it gets lost and everything else, and you never really know if you got reimbursed. Now it's a separate reimbursement. It comes electronic deposit, so you know you got reimbursed.
Perfect. We definitely want to drive that home.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, one thing I'll say, we do see a lot of FCRs that the pilot had an issue in the hotel room, be it noise, be it getting into their room, the length of the layover, whatever it might be, but they fill out an FCR and it usually ends with, and if this happens again, I'm calling in fatigue. That is just setting yourself up for trouble. Call in, shut the operation down. It's one of those binary things. Either you are or you aren't.
Agreed. And this goes back to our previous podcasts, which I encourage you to listen to, Craig. 3-part scheduling series on fatigue and rotation construction. And yeah, those questions come up. Hey, I got into the hotel. I was in New Orleans. It's a great hotel, but people were up partying till 2 a.m. I had a 7 a.m. show. Who do I call? Where do I go? And we lead you through that. You call the duty pilot. You can call the front desk, self-help first, right? Call the front desk, try to move rooms. Now you call the duty pilot and you start making arrangements. Fatigue call is your legal obligation. Let's take a moment. We have a dart from Atlanta. This pilot writes in, what's the deal with Amsterdam and Narita? Why are there carve-outs in our contract for both of these hotels? Narita doesn't really apply anymore, but Amsterdam does. Who wants this one? Don't
This
fight.
is Craig. I'll take that just because I was here for it. So Narita and Amsterdam, when Delta and Northwest merged, the company came to ALPA and said, well, we own this hotel in Narita and we lease this hotel in Amsterdam, and we need them included in the contract. Hotel committees weren't consulted on it, and so they ended up as specific carve-outs in our contract. As you pointed out, Narita has kind of solved itself as we've left that market. Amsterdam is still there. I can tell you that we have a good portion of pilots that really don't like that hotel. There's also a portion of pilots that absolutely love that hotel. That's their home away from home. So it's a mixed bag on that one. I personally would love to see it go away as a carve out just because it's a standalone. I would like to see the contract cleaner and everything just go through the normal process. But that's how it came to be, and it's still there.
Okay, and so let's nip this in the bud. True or false? Northwest Airlines owned that hotel in Amsterdam, which is why we're still there.
False. They owned the one in Narita.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting tidbit. Moving along. I know a hotel in Amsterdam has kind of grown on me. A lot of people have bicycles there. I bet if we left, everybody would say, no, I want to go back.
There would be certainly a portion.
That's the problem, Ryan. We can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a tough job. It's thankless. I'll be the first one to thank you because your committee does amazing work. And although it's not often recognized, I think we need to clap it up for the hotel committee. This is quality of life to a T. We live it day in and day out. So thank you. We'll take a break here. Back in 30 seconds with the hotel committee.
This episode of Engage is brought to you by the MEC Communications Committee. Check out their new series called At the Table, providing pilots an inside look at what's being discussed at the negotiating table. Find it in your email inbox, on the MEC webpage, or on your company iPad in the ALPA folder.
Okay, so we talked about COVID provisions and we're, knock on wood, we're kind of emerging from this a little bit. And so we don't need to spend a great deal of time on it. But I do want to bring up, we are still in several cities, a lot of international markets where we are restricted to the hotel for COVID reasons. Is that coming to an end? Is that government imposed truly, or is that Delta corporate security that gets involved? Where are these restrictions coming from?
Those COVID restrictions were government imposed, not Delta imposed. Sydney, Australia was one of the toughest locations that had restrictions. And I believe they've come out of their restrictions. The only property that I am aware of that is still fully restricted is in Incheon, but that is all government imposed restrictions.
We had 50 hotels close down and shut their doors during COVID that were our layover hotels in various places around the world. And we had to go find alternate places to stay. The upside is, in quite a few cities, we've been able to make improvements in the hotels coming out of COVID. New Orleans is a great example. We ended up in the Ritz-Carlton for a couple of months, and now we're at the Hilton Riverside that we're getting a lot of great feedback on.
Great. So definite upside to some of the shuffling.
Yes.
I want to turn to, and we can have fun with this, but your favorite layovers, your favorite destinations, you can just shout them out. Just let it rip.
Munich Hilton.
Renaissance in Sao Paulo,
The Marriott Marquis downtown Houston. That's a great hotel.
St. Regis in Mumbai, India.
Yeah, that was fabulous.
Shangri-La, Shanghai.
Yes, JW Marriott in Austin, the Alida in Savannah, Belmond Charleston Place Hotel in Charleston, South Carolina.
The Memphis Canopy is getting a lot of positive FCRs.
Drury in Nashville's getting some really good reviews.
It's a Drury Plaza, Craig, not just a Drury.
I'm sorry, the Drury Plaza.
I heard that place has Peloton bikes.
Yeah, Weston had an agreement with Peloton. They're supposed to have Pelotons in every Weston.
And a little secret here for you, Belmond, Charleston, if you stay there, if you want a Peloton bike delivered to your room, call the front desk and they'll bring one to you.
What?
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't let that one out.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. That was a cool little rundown. When you fly with guys and you tell them you're on the hotel committee and you answer the same question over and over again, now's your chance. We've got 9,000 listeners. What do you want to say? Steve Koffler up first.
Ryan, the biggest thing that I would like to say is that you are all our eyes and ears out on the line. You may experience something that one of our inspectors did not in a hotel. We can't spend the night in every single hotel that you may be the first to find out about a construction project that the hotel hasn't even notified Delta Airlines about. So please file those FCRs, both positive and negative, and let us know what's going out there on the line.
Stephen Roberts.
I would say that if we want to have serious changes in our contract language, that you're going to have to speak with your reps, let them know. If we want to get stronger language where we can hold the company to certain standards, then it's got to change in the contract.
Craig Stevens.
Oh, I'll hit the FCRs again, too. That is our tool to leverage change within the hotel world and where we lay over and which properties we lay over in. And the other thing, too, is we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that we have a fairly large committee. It's also a very diverse committee. We've got people on every piece of equipment that Delta flies. So we do have committee members that are laying over in many of the properties, not all the time, but occasionally throughout the system. But again, you guys are there all the time. And if you see something, let us know.
Yeah, you bet. You heard it here. FCRs, fill them out, positive, negative, goes to the company, goes to the hotel committee. Do it in the van on the way to or from the airport. It's simple. You can do it on your iPad or your iPhone. Knock them out. Well, again, we appreciate what you do for us and what the hotel committee does. It affects us every day, right? It affects our quality of life. And that's something that we've been talking a lot about lately between fatigue, scheduling, and quality of life. Steve, Stephen, and Craig, guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Ryan.
This has been Engaged, the podcast for Delta pilots. Thanks for listening. My name is Ryan Argenta. Stay safe and keep the rubber on the road.
You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform, and receive notifications when a new episode is available.